Welcome to the Hormone Hub podcast. I'm Kylie Pinwell, and this is where we talk about what's really going on in perimenopause and menopause and what you can actually do about it. Welcome back to the Hormone Hub podcast. I'm Kylie Pinwell, clinical nutritionist and your perimenopause and menopause guide. If you haven't listened to our previous episode 125, I really encourage you to go back and start there. We talked about why you're waking up at 3 a.m., the racing brain, the sadness, the anxiety, the cortisol connection, all of it. And today we're going even deeper. Because today I want to talk to you about something I think is going to completely reframe how you see your sleep struggles. And it starts with a story about a client of mine called Fiona. So let's get into it. Fiona came to me absolutely exhausted, and I don't mean tired. I mean that bone deep, can't think straight, running on empty, exhausted that so many of you will recognize immediately. She was waking up multiple times a night, drenched in sweat, hot flushes pulling her out of sleep, just as she's finally drifted off. And then lying there afterwards, heart pounding, feeling genuinely anxious, not anxious about anything specific, just this low-level dread sitting in her chest at the middle of the night. And then the days were brutal. She would drag herself through the morning, she'd hit a wall around 2 p.m. and then spend the rest of the afternoon reaching for anything she could find. So chocolate, biscuits, that third coffee, the fourth coffee, just to get herself through the end of the day. And then, as a result, her weight started creeping up, which made her feel even worse about herself, which made her try harder. So she was eating less, she was trying to exercise more, and she was just more exhausted, which then made her sleep worse. And she was stuck in this cycle that she couldn't get out of. And here's the thing about Fiona. She is super smart. She's capable. She has an amazing job. She'd tried everything. She'd done all the sleep hygiene. She'd tried a million supplements. She'd cut back on screen time. She'd gone back to bed earlier, and nothing worked. And then she said to me something I hear all the time. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like my body has given up. And I said to her what I want to say to you right now. Nothing is wrong with you, but you don't have a sleep problem, you have a hormone problem, and that changes everything. So here's why nothing worked. When we treat sleep as a sleep problem, we look for sleep solutions. We look for better routines. We look for earlier bedtimes, meditation apps, supplements, blackout curtains. And again, none of these things are wrong or bad, but they're all addressing symptoms, not the cause. And for sure, all of those things can help. But it's a bit like having a smoke alarm going off in your house, and instead of looking for the fire, you just take the battery out of the alarm. The noise stops, but the fire is still there. And for women in perimenopause and menopause, the fire is hormonal. And until we address that fire alarm, that alarm's going to keep going off. So let me just explain for a sec what's actually driving these things for most of the women I work with. So hot flushes and night sweats are an estrogen issue. So when estrogen fluctuates, our body's internal thermostat becomes unstable. So our brain gets a false signal that we're overheating, and it triggers a flush to ultimately cool you down. So this can pull you straight out of a deep sleep. And once you're awake, you're hot, your heart's racing, getting back to sleep is genuinely hard. So this isn't a sleep disorder, this is estrogen dysregulation. Particularly as we get closer to menopause and postmenopause, it's low estrogen. So night anxiety is a progesterone issue. So as I talked about in the last episode, progesterone is our calming hormone. So when it drops, our nervous system loses its buffer. So that low-level anxiety you feel in the night, that sort of sense of dread or unease that you can't quite explain, that's your body without its natural calming support. Again, it's not a sleep problem, it's a hormone problem. And then we've got the afternoon energy crash and, the cravings, which often come with that, just to try and pick ourselves up a bit. So this is a cortisol and a blood sugar issue. So when we're not sleeping, cortisol stays elevated. So cortisol should drop during the night and then rise in the morning to get us up and get us going out of bed. But when we've got elevated cortisol during the night, it really throws everything out. So it's cortisol driving those cravings, particularly for sugar and like refined carbs, because our body's desperately looking for that quick energy source. So this could be the 3 o'clock chocolate or the chocolate before we go to bed. So our blood sugar spikes and then crashes and we feel worse. So then we think we want more. And then if we've been on that roller coaster during the day, by the time we get to dinner, we're either ravenous or so wired on stress hormones that we don't feel like eating. And then we wonder why we can't sleep that night. So you can see the cycle. And this is exactly what Fiona was caught in. So every single piece of it connected back to her hormones. So not her habits, not her willpower, not her sleep hygiene, her hormones. So this is why supplements alone, they're not going to fix it. Supplements are a tool in our kit, 100%, but they're not always the magic bullet. So I'm going to spend a minute or two on magnesium because I get asked about this all the time. And look, I love magnesium. It is 100% a daily fix in my toolkits. It has a real role to play in supporting sleep, that nervous system regulation and muscle relaxation. And I recommend it to my clients regularly. But here's what magnesium can't do. So magnesium can't replace declining progesterone. It can't stabilize fluctuating estrogen. It can't reset a dysregulated cortisol pattern, and it can't fix blood sugar instability caused by undereating. So magnesium is a support tool. It's not a root cause fix. And I think this is the problem with so much of the advice that's flying around the internet these days, all around midlife women and sleep. So it's all aimed at helping you fall asleep faster or stay asleep longer without actually ever asking why you're not sleeping in the first place. And the why matters hugely because it determines what we do to address it. And for most women in perimenopause and menopause, the why is hormonal. Okay, so what did we do with Fiona? We stopped treating her sleep as a sleep problem and started treating it as a hormone problem. So we looked at what she was eating and when. We stabilised her blood sugar with proper protein at every meal, particularly at dinner time. We addressed the undereating that was driving the afternoon crashes and the night waking. We looked at her cortisol patterns, we shifted her exercise timing, and we introduced a proper wind down routine. So, not a complicated one, just a consistent one. So, this way, her nervous system had a chance to actually downregulate before bed. We supported her estrogen and progesterone through targeted nutrition, the right foods, the right nutrients, reducing things that were actively disrupting her hormone balance. And when we looked at alcohol, which, like a lot of women, Fiona was using alcohol to wind down. And as we talked about last episode, alcohol can actually make everything worse. So here's what happened. Within the first week, her night sweats reduced. They weren't completely gone, but they were noticeably better. The 2 a.m. anxiety started to ease, and she was waking less frequently. And by week 3, she was sleeping through most nights. So the afternoon cravings were almost gone. And because she wasn't running on empty anymore, she actually had the energy to get through the afternoon. And her weight eventually started shifting, not because she was dieting or trying harder, but because her cortisol was lower, her blood sugar was more stable, and her body finally felt safe enough to let go. And she said, oh God, she goes, I thought I'd never feel like this again. And that's everything. And that's why I do this work and why I love it. Because Fiona didn't need more sleep tips. She needed someone to look at the full hormonal picture and address what actually was driving things. Now, I know some of you are listening and you think, okay, but where do I even start? And I hear you, because when you're already exhausted and it feels like you have tried all the things, the last thing you want is another overwhelming protocol. So here's where I would start. The 3 a.m. fix is exactly what the name says. We fix that 3 a.m. problem. So we've got short videos, a workbook, a daily tracker, and a bonus supplement guide of what I use in my toolkit. We work through the 5 hormonal drivers of broken sleep, so blood sugar regulation, cortisol, alcohol, nervous system regulation, and your evening environment. So it's not overwhelming, it's not extreme, it is very targeted, it's practical, and it works. And most women feel a difference within 48 hours. And at $37, it is honestly the most affordable way I know to start understanding what your body actually needs. Now, if Fiona's story sounded familiar, the hot flushes, the anxiety, the exhaustion, the afternoon cravings, the weight that won't shift, this is your starting point. And all the details are in the show notes. So if you are ready for the full picture, if you want to do exactly what Fiona did and address every piece of the hormonal puzzle over the next 8 weeks, that's what we do in the hormone code. So that's what that's designed for. And you'll find that in the show notes too. Okay, that's a wrap on this episode. So if this has landed for you today, please share it with a friend. And I genuinely mean that, because there are so many women out there thinking that there's something wrong with them. So, they're trying harder, they're sleeping less, they're feeling worse, and not understanding why. So this conversation could change that for someone you know. So make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. We are going deeper into the practical side of this over the next coming weeks, and I promise it just keeps getting better. And if you want to work with me directly, all the ways to do that are in the show notes below. I'll see you in the next episode. Big love. Thanks for listening to the Hormone Hub podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow so you never miss a new one. And for more practical hormone support, visit myhormonehub.com.